welcome back to the podcast. I know it's been a little while. I think factor on Christmas, sickness, and then power cuts. You will not believe the amount of power cuts we've had in Muff in the last week. 3 separate power cuts. And funny enough, Emily was slagging me about power and says like our power from off like once in 15 years and with off a night. So I think some parts of the other sides we have power, but must just be the bad weather. Must have just affected loads of things. Maybe didn't take much ending knocks on out. So hopefully Muff is back in order, and hopefully I'll be back in order pretty soon because I'll be listening if I don't. Let's get onto the football one because so much to discuss. I think it was Boxing Day the last time we were on, so just before Boxing Day. Obviously we can't go through everything because we'll be here all night, but we'll go back towards the cups, the League Cup, the FA Cup. Them League Cup semi-finals are finally poised. I think everybody expected Liverpool and Arsenal, they steamroll their way to the final, but they've a bit of work to do. Obviously, Arsenal have a lot more work to do than Liverpool. We'll look at the FA Cup. A lot of talk about replays. Should they be scrapped? Should they have been kept? We'll look at that.
I seen Ange was complaining about that again.
Well, we'll get on it. We'll get on it. Of course, United dumped Arsenal out despite being down to 10 men. Huge one for Arsenal, I have to say. I've been very impressed with Ruben Amorim, and I'll get into that when we come to talk about Man United.
As you know, I'm not United's biggest fan, but it was 12 against 10 there at one point yesterday.
That's how everything went against United yesterday, and they still managed to win the game. We'll look at Brentford, one of the teams that rotated a lot of players when they've no real danger of relegation, they're not going to get into Europe, so why did they rotate their players and risk going into the FA Cup? The games is all on weekends now. There's no midweek FA Cup games. So it seemed like a really silly move, and of course it cost them their spot in the FA Cup, so we'll look at that. And that's obviously an ongoing issue. With a lot of teams over the years that have rotated their squads and without. We'll finish off the FA Cup by looking at the 4th round draw, selected ties, including Villa against Spurs, Brighton against Chelsea, Man United against Leicester, and of course Plymouth taking on Liverpool. It's been a busy few days for chairmen in the Premier League, sacking managers and hiring new ones. You know my thoughts on this one, and we'll get on it, but I don't think this is the right approach for certain clubs. I know you have a different opinion, so we'll get on that. And finally, we'll finish off by looking ahead. They have a massive week in the Premier League, a double match round, teams playing midweek and the Premier League, so 6 points on offer. Who could be the biggest winners and losers? And of course, some big games in there, including the North London Derby, and of course, title chasing Forest taking on title favourites Liverpool. So many big games this week. Looking forward to it, Owen. How have you been? Of course, it's been a wee while since you were on. Did you get over Christmas okay? And are you looking forward to the new year?
Aye, life's going well at the minute. I can't complain. I didn't see the Liverpool match on Saturday, obviously, because I was otherwise engaged. I'll leave it at that. But no, all good. But I didn't expect to be sitting here in January going Nottingham Forest versus Liverpool is going to be a title deciding game, maybe.
Well, I'll say no more, but your loyalty might be tested now. Over the next few months. We'll see. Maybe first place on Owen's mind. We'll see, but you know what? The evidence will tell us.
It's always going to be us here. It's always going to be us here, badge.
Hope she's not watching. Owen, let's start by looking back at the cup action. Of course, we'll start with the CARABAO Cup. Last week, of course, I was in London for the Spurs Liverpool game. And of course, the night before, Newcastle, probably more of a shock than the Spurs one. Not so much that, everyone did fancy Liverpool, they won, but the fact that Arsenal were at home and Newcastle went there and won 2-0. Obviously, with Newcastle have one hand, you would say, one foot on the final. Spurs, of course, have a bit more work to do. But, the fact that Spurs can go to Anfield and not have to win the game is obviously a big, big plus. You start the game 1-0 up. Of course, Leeds can be overturned, and we know Anfield is a famous place for comebacks. But the fact that they don't have to go and win there, and Spurs haven't had much joy at Anfield, but they have had a number of draws over the years, so they will have a little bit of confidence that they can see Liverpool off. And of course, Newcastle really have the tie in the palm of their hand. So, what did you make of the 2 games? We'll start with the Newcastle one on the first night because I really couldn't see. I could see Newcastle making it difficult and maybe getting a draw, but I didn't really fancy them to go and win that comfortable.
No, neither did I. And I was watching it and I was going, it sort of feels like we're back to where we were at this stage last season. We were saying, they need a striker, and then they went and scored bagfuls of goals in a couple of games, and then everything sort of calmed down. But We'll speak about it when we get on to the game yesterday, but them chances that Havertz missed were embarrassing. Like at times
As the
yesterday.
big difference, this season is when all these these problems that were happening at Christmas last year, and then they went on that great run in the new year. They started the new year quite well. They haven't started the new year. They've actually got worse in 2025. But as the amount of injuries they have now, it's difficult to see how they can put that kind of run together. Whereas last year they had a really, really fit squad. And Havertz was in form. Saka has gone. Trossard's form's gone. Martinelli's been struggling for a wee while, but he seems to be struggling even more. Jesus is injured now as well, so it's hard to see how Arsenal could go on a run like that at the moment.
No, I can't see it for myself, as you say. Like they have Saka out at the minute, Cal Fury out, Odegaard's in and out at the minute because he's not 100% fit, and I just think the balance of the team's all wrong because I just think yesterday he was playing Marino in the 10, which didn't make sense to me because he's more of a defensive minded. But full credit to Newcastle, like they've been on fire this past six or so weeks. And as Callum says, playing the same players over and over again catches up. And maybe that's what happened to Liverpool the night after. I know we rested a few, but we still had our main boys out there.
We'll actually bring this up now, right? Because Callum's mentioned it there. It's a good point. Does it worry what happened with Saka could happen with Salah? Saka, to be fair, he does go down a lot more than Salah in a game, and the physio he's on. But this is the first serious injury that he's had, really. You see Salah playing every minute of every game. I know he didn't play in the FA Cup, but that's probably because he played Accrington Stanley. If Liverpool had been playing Man United on Sunday, Salah probably would have played 90 minutes. Yeah. And regardless if Liverpool are 1-0 down or 3-0 up, Salah tends to play 90 minutes. Is that, when you look at the importance, the Saka to Arsenal look a shadow of the team. I know there's a few injuries, but Saka going out of that front three seems to really, really have a massive effect. Yeah. Is that the worry for you looking at it? If Liverpool are now 2 or 3 up in a game, do you just bring Salah off? They protect them. I know injuries can happen anywhere, but you think the more minutes they play, the more likely it is.
If we're comfortable in a game, I would like, as you say, if we're 2-3 up in a game, I'd be like, I get them off, especially because we have a lot of game coming up as well with Champions League starting up again. Is it next week that starts up again? Yeah, I know we're through in that, so he might get a rest in them games.
But there's no real reason for Salah to play those 2 games, really, is there? Or he could maybe start and come off, or be on the bench and come on.
I think Salah's just that driven, where he wants all the records, he wants all the goals. Like he just wants to play regardless of.
I get that, but in hindsight, right? If Liverpool go and smash these two teams in the next 2 weeks, Lille and who's the other one? Lille and something like no, they played Girona.
I can't mind who the last one is.
I can't mind Girona. Callum might know it. I know they play Lille at home and then they've an away game. Then, but,
who do we play away?
For example, if Liverpool were to go and win those games and Salah gets injured in one of them, all of a sudden you go, well, why was he playing? Because sure,
it was like Jota a few years ago, man, when we played Midtjylland. We were done and dusted. Then he picked up an injury.
And look, I seen this firsthand at the Spurs game. All it takes is a freak injury like Bentancur, where he collides with the turf going on for a header, and he it could have been a lot more serious than what it was. But all it takes is a freak injury like that.
When that happened, I thought he broke his neck.
ESV away,
ESV, yeah. So we should be comfortable. They won them. We don't even need to win them really. But I can see why he plays him, but maybe in the lesser games where there's not much riding on it, I wouldn't play him.
Obviously, I was at the game last week, and I have to say, from minute 1, I never felt at any point in the game Liverpool were anywhere near their best. Even at half-time, me and my dad says, do you know what? We could nick this game 1-0. And Spurs don't win games 1-0, but you just had that feeling that there was only going to be maybe one goal in the game. And Liverpool got themselves in the good areas at times. I think from sort of minute 25 to 45, they completely dominated the ball. Spurs had a really good start.
Yeah.
And even the injury itself, I thought was going to be a nightmare, but they actually kept going for another 10 minutes or so. Liverpool then got their foot under the game. Spurs really couldn't get at them in the final 20 minutes of that first half. I know it went on for ages because of the injury. Mm-hmm. But, if we're looking at the final 20 minutes of live play, it was all Liverpool without really creating anything. And there was numerous times they got themselves in a good position. So they were overhit a pass, overhit a cross. It just seemed that they were well off their game. And, Salah's one of those players. I know he can be quiet and come alive, but at no point in the game did he really get involved, and it was
No, I
really
didn't.
just looked at it and thought maybe this Liverpool team is a little bit fatigued with all the games. Slot doesn't rotate his team in the Champions League. It's very much the same team. He might make one or two changes. Usually in midfield, he might make one.
Yeah.
He kind of goes. He's got McAllister, Gravenberch, Jones, and Szoboszlai. He kind of rotates the 3 and the 4. Gravenberch usually plays, but the other ones kind of rotate sometimes. But I just wondered and looked at it. Spurs looked the fresher team despite all their injuries.
It's a strange one, but I think the only big chance I can remember us having was when I agree Spence was good against them. The only chance I remember us having. Do you remember when Trent had it? And I think it was Dragusin cleared it off.
Right, and that was well into the second half.
That's the only chance I can fully remember. But I'm still confident going into the second night that we can get the job done.
And honestly, I got the feeling that we were going to go and win it, and then we get the goal.
Well,
and it's disallowed for offside.
To be fair, Bergville should have been sent off.
Should have been sent off, but even and I'll tell you, something happened with that offside call as well, where maybe that we're watching the game, and obviously the goal goes in, and we're all celebrating, and we were like, well, maybe it is offside. But the longer it was going, you kind of felt it. But I was watching Liverpool players afterwards, after the goal, the game restarted. It's almost like they says, let's just keep it tight here and play for a draw.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you get yourself under that mode, that you're cruising towards a 0-0 and thinking, right, we get these back to Anfield and a 0-0, we'll blitz them or we'll beat them comfortably at home. And I think there's always a risk that, we know Spurs can score goals, and I know there's a lot of controversy around the goal.
Always is.
It wasn't a shock when the goal went in, that, because it looked like Spurs could win it.
No, I agree. Like Spurs were, I think if the game ended 0-0, nobody would have complained. If you know what I mean. If it, I don't think either team deserved to really win it.
I don't think the two keepers made many saves.
No. But as I say, fair play to Spurs on the night. They were marginally the better team, as you say. We kept the ball in the final 20 minutes of the second half without really creating anything. But as I said, I still fancy our chances going back at Anfield on the 7th of February, is it?
6th. It's a Thursday night game, so it'll suit Spurs because we're used to Thursdays, aren't we? So here, Cal makes a good point about Spence, and do you know what? Even though Spurs lost that first game in the league 6-3, I thought Spence was excellent against Salah. I know Salah scored 2 goals, but I don't think Spence lost that. I can't remember too many times Salah went past him in that game.
No.
I'm very similar in this game, but I wonder, although Spence is, you need to have the quality, but I wonder, does it suit playing a right-footed fullback against Salah? Because Salah is always going to come on side 9 times out of 10, coming on the stronger foot. I wonder if that has anything to do with it, because Spence, I think, had 2 good games against Salah.
It could do, yeah. You could. Don't. Hopefully, no other teams are watching this. But no, it could. It could.
I think you need to be good to stop Salah, no matter what foot you have. But
it could be something. But he has had 2 good games against them, and hopefully, when we play in Anfield, he has a stinker, so we can get through. But no, like for Spurs, like for them, they'll be going on there thinking, we don't need to score here, but the way Ange plays, he's not going to go sit back.
I don't think they'll have that approach. But I have noticed in the game against Wolves, they drew in the league 2-2. The game against Newcastle, they lost 2-1. And the game against Liverpool, there was definitely a more relaxed approach. It wasn't gung-ho. And it's actually reflected in the XG. They haven't conceded more than 1 XG in any of those games.
You think
Wolves scored 2 goals from 0.57. And Newcastle scored 2 goals from 0.78, and Liverpool's XG was really low against Spurs as well. So they've definitely, and I have to say there is a trade-off because they definitely haven't created as many chances in those 3 games either.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Do you think he's doubted himself, or he's just waiting to get his players back, or?
Well, the pressure's really on. I mean, that was a big pressure reliever winning that game. I know there's still a second leg to go, but I kind of feel that as long as he beat Liverpool and beat Tamworth, which we did, we'll come on to talk about the Tamworth game. I think that buys him time to February now until that second leg. I really do. Yeah. I can't see them making a change before that.
No, I don't know. But we'll get on to it. But to be fair, even though you ended up winning 3-0 against Tamworth, that was embarrassing yesterday.
We'll talk about that. Final thoughts. Who is going to be walking out on Wembley on the 16th of March?
I'm gonna say Liverpool, Newcastle.
Liverpool, Newcastle.
I
do think Newcastle will definitely be there. And I think Liverpool are probably still favourites.
Yeah,
It would only be 1-0.
if
But
it
I
is a
think if Spurs
Spurs,
go and get the first goal, it would
uh,
be you'd really fancy them in. But hey, who knows?
if it is a Spurs Newcastle final, well, someone's ending their trophy right anyway.
Well, that's it. And I think the FA Cup draws worked in Liverpool's favour, and we'll speak about that after.
Yeah.
Because the FA Cup is the game after this game as well. So
The Merseyside derby got rescheduled today as well.
I've seen that for the following week. So it's
Yeah.
they play Liverpool, they play Spurs on the Thursday. They'll have the FA Cup game at the weekend. That's not been announced what day it is, and then Everton on the Wednesday. So busy week, but I think the Plymouth game being in between really helps.
If Spurs is on the Thursday, you would assume the Plymouth game is going to be on a Monday or a Sunday.
I have a feeling ours could be the Monday night. Just have a feeling that could be the Monday night game, Villa Spurs. But we'll see. That them details probably be released at some stage this week, so keep an eye on that. Now, changes to the FA Cup this year, of course, the fourth round will be played from Friday to Wednesday, so the games will be spread out all over those days. So you'll get plenty of watching, but I think again some people are unhappy that the games are at night and travel and stuff like that. They want it on the weekend, but we'll speak about that when we come on to the FA Cup. And we'll start on by looking back at the big tie of the round, of course, was Arsenal against Man United. Again, when the draw was made, Arsenal probably felt that this was going to be a good game for them because they just beat them in the cup, or they beat them in the league a couple of days before comfortably. Yeah. And I have to say, when we're coming on to talk to North London Derby, I was kind of dreading this fixture, but all of a sudden now I'm looking at this fixture and thinking it's an opportunity. They go and beat Arsenal, and United probably had the same feeling yesterday. What did you make of the game? Because it was a really slow burner. First half was pretty poor, and then it burst into life in the second half. It was like a throwback to an old Arsenal Man United game.
As you say, the first half was slow and lethargic. The crowd weren't really up for it, and then I think once Bruno put United in front, that really livened up the game.
What a finish as well! What a finish that was.
It was even I, like, obviously I'm a Liverpool fan, but even I was sitting watching it. Even I went, wow.
He seems to have rediscovered his form under Ruben Amorim.
He does it. He was really good against us last week. The prick. But I can't stand him. He's no, he has a top class football. But it was the second half then, as I said, with the goals happening, like, and the red card, which I think was pretty harsh. Obviously, you can't go on the gap when you're on a yellow card, but he didn't touch him.
I think he gives the referee a decision to make. To be honest, I don't think the referee had a great game, but I don't think that Dalot can have any complaints about the second yellow.
The ref really didn't have a good game, but to be fair, once United went down to 10 men, Arsenal had a few chances, but me watching it, I never really felt that Arsenal were going to score in open play. And
Havertz is starting to look like the Havertz at Chelsea, where he gets all these chances and he can't put them away.
Well, I can't really slang about that. We have our own problem with that at the minute. I actually seen
he was absolutely dreadful in that game when he came on against Spurs. Nunes.
Oh, no, he was. I actually seen. I don't know if Calum's still watching, but I actually seen the World Link with a striker today he's like 19 from Greece. They signed him in the summer, so maybe
one for the future. Of course, United went through one, and I have to say, I've been very impressed with Ruben Amorim. I know there's been some bad results on there, but these things are going to take time. I think it's you judge him on his big games. He's went to Man City and won. He's went to Liverpool and drew and equal, and arguably should have won the game. And he's went to Arsenal yesterday and won on penalties. Probably the three toughest away fixtures that you have. When the season comes out, you'd say that's the three hardest games, and it has been over the last few years. I know Man City have been going through a tough patch this season.
Maybe St James's Park as well. You would throw in there.
Well, but definitely on individual and team quality and positions. Those have been the top three teams over the last few years, and United have done brilliant in them games, and you have to credit a lot of it to Ruben Amorim. The players have definitely bought him. I seen yesterday, some of the defending they were doing and some of the running they were doing. They weren't doing any of that for Ten Hag, so it seems to be that United have got that wee bit of fighting for the shirt mentality back under Amorim.
I have to say I have been really impressed with them. Like against us last week, as you say, they probably deserve to win the game. And I think I've been really impressed with Harry Maguire. I think he really suits a back three. I think because he's not asked to do that much one-on-one defending, and I thought he was excellent yesterday. And obviously he gave away the penalty, which was an awful decision.
Yeah, never a
From
penalty.
No, and that's why we think. I know a lot of us complain about VAR times, me more than most, but then you think if we had it yesterday, that wouldn't have been given. So that's another thing. I find it strange why it's in certain competitions but not in others. Like if
Yeah, it doesn't come onto the FA Cup to the fifth round, but like the League Cup, where it doesn't come onto the semi final.
I don't get. Oh, on the League Cup, what I forgot to ask. What did you think of the referee talking to the crowd? Did you like that or?
To be honest, I don't think they needed to do it for that situation because you knew it was
No.
going to be offside of it being disallowed. So, but maybe our ones. It depends what they're going to say. Are they going to say why it's a penalty or whatever? But yourself, a lot of these things don't get overturned. I mean, looking at I can see the argument for the VAR because the Solanke goal was disallowed. I think, if that had stood and there was no, I don't think Liverpool fans would have complained too much because it was that tight.
It was very tight.
But I think when you have decisions like the one yesterday, where Havertz jumps Andy Maguire, if anything, it's a free kick out. Is that why we need VAR? Is there a spot for it in the game? It's obviously it needs to be utilised better. But if Arsenal scored that penalty yesterday and knocked United out of the cup because of a very poor decision, I'm convinced. I know VAR has its critics, but I'm convinced that VAR would overturn that decision yesterday.
Oh, they would have, and if they didn't, then it's a joke. But like, it's not VAR itself that's a problem. It's because it's the same referees using it, and then they go on a game the next day and make a mistake. So I don't know what.
And then the thing with VAR too, and it's becoming more and more common. I think it needs to be brought on for second yellow cards because there's so many people. There seems to be so many decisions now where second yellow cards not being punished, and something happens after it, and they aren't allowed to get involved for a second yellow card. It has to be a straight red.
Do you think last week in that League Cup game, do you think if Liverpool had kicked the ball out there, he would have been sent off?
I do. Yeah.
I don't understand that either. Like, why not go back and send him off anyway?
The only thing I would say on it being the ground, there was a number of that in the game. I think there's one where Trent pulled Werner's shirt and Werner ran away from him still and he didn't go back and book him. And there was another one in the first half. I think I might have grabbed.
I think
the referee was pretty consistent on it, but when it leads to a goal, it's a different talking point. First yellow card for me wasn't a yellow card, but it still doesn't change the fact that he missed the second one, and he really should have been sent off.
So it's strange how they utilize it in some competitions and not in the.
But to be fair, it's a really strange one that it happened directly after the second yellow, and it happened when the player was off getting treatment. It was just a mess. But the one thing I would say about it there is if Shimikas was that badly hurt, why did he come back on?
Exactly.
Do players need to realise that unless I'm badly hurt, I need to just get up and stay on?
Like you knew yesterday that Jesus was done. Like when he went down,
you know what I mean. And I think maybe Shimikas was lying down thinking that if I stay down here, they'll go back and send him off. But
that's why when players go down with head injuries, I don't like it because there is serious head injuries, and you have players going down for wee knocks, and it's like you know what you're doing there.
We don't know how significant it could be, but that could be the goal that knocks Liverpool out of the cup. We just don't know.
It could be.
That'll be a big talking point.
Somehow I don't think it will be. I think there'll be more goals, but you never know. But in terms of the FA Cup, like I don't know where Arsenal go because I was watching AFTV last night and they were saying, "Oh, the season's done," and I was like, "Well, they have a point, like because
it's bordering on toxic again." We haven't seen this for a number of years, but I think if they were to lose the Spurs on Wednesday, it would get really, really toxic.
Yeah, like for me, if they lose the Spurs and we beat Nottingham Forest, just give us the league. Like.
Must be difficult for Robbie because when they lose and they're on a bad run, his numbers must go up. He's got great numbers anyway.
Yeah. I was watching that last night.
I was glued to it last night, and you were probably glued to it because you're going to get a meltdown. Like
one of the boys on it, who has a Turkish. Did you watch his?
Aye.
Yeah, I watched the video from when they won. It was like they got like 60,000 views, and then last night it was like 200, 300. It's mental, but. That's how fan channels work, isn't it? If you lose, you're going to get more views because it's opposition fans going to watch it.
Yeah.
But I do think it's going to go toxic. And if he doesn't win a trophy this season, then there has to be questions asked in the summer, especially if Slot goes and wins the league this season.
Yeah, we'll come on. They talk about Arsenal in more depth very soon. And of course, Gary Lineker had his piece yesterday. Be fair to Gary Lineker, great presenter, but I think now he does the podcast, the rest is football, and it does seem to be a lot more opinionated now than he ever did. We've seen what happened. Remember, he took the stand against BBC. Remember, they asked him to step down, and everyone rallied against him a couple of seasons ago. And there's been a few other things he's got involved in, but he spoke out that it was a travesty that Tamworth didn't get a replay going back to Spurs. I think Ange was questioned that you says there at the top of the show, Ange. I don't think he was complaining. I think he was just saying that, look, I completely understand where they're coming from, but realistically, where are we going to play the game? Because we've got Europe next week and the week after, and then we've got the League Cup, and then we've got the FA Cup. So, I mean, it's one of those ones. And to be fair to Tamworth, and look, I'm not having a go at them, but they did come through a penalty shootout. They get here. So, there's no guarantee if it had a replay, they would even got their day out. So, there's always a, pot calling the kettle black. But where do you stand on the whole replays thing? Because I'll be honest with you, I do think there's got to be a way around it, because the FA Cup is a special competition, and you do always look forward to an midweek replay when it's happening.
I like the replays, because I said to you even yesterday, like Tamworth and Spurs, like you're never gonna get that game again. Like, well, you could, but you know what I mean. And I said to you yesterday, I love these type of games, and could you imagine the money Tamworth would have got if they took these back to your like. That's what I mean.
That's it. And I think from a pure financial point of view, why Tamworth would want to replay. They know there's probably be a walkover at the Spurs Stadium. On a proper pitch. Spurs would probably put a fair few past them. But obviously the money, they would get 6,000 tickets in the away end. £40 a ticket, say, like they charge £42 for that home game, and that's more money. Like, you'd have definitely got a TV money that the BBC Right TV would have televised that game, so it would have been a big earner for them. But then if you flip it to the other side, if Liverpool are playing Man United in a game, say it's the quarterfinal, and it's a draw at Old Trafford, Liverpool would much rather prefer a replay, because from a sporting point of view to get through, then maybe have extra time at Old Trafford. So two different sort of agendas here, but Tamworth's agenda is purely based on the day out at Spurs, not they actually try and progress.
Because they know they're not going to progress. Although yesterday in the 90th,
well, you say that, but their best chance of progressing was probably extra time yesterday, and maybe trying to hold out for a penalty shootout, because I don't think there's any chance they could have survived at Spurs.
No, Spurs would have ripped them to shreds at home. But I generally, when I was watching it yesterday, I thought before extra time, I thought Tamworth won mine when they said.
Well, me and my dad were watching it, and we were starting to get very nervous towards the end. And I says, there was 5 minutes to go plus out of time, and I says, if Tamworth's going to win it, they have to win it in the next 5 minutes, because they're not going to win it in extra time. They're going to tire. And you think Spurs is going to get a couple of chances at least, and that's what turned out. A bit of luck with a goal, obviously, but I think that was just down to fatigue, and then I think that the game really opened up, and Spurs could have won it by more than 3 and end up. And to be fair, 3-0 is probably a full scoreline. It probably doesn't tell the whole story. Tamworth were well in the game without creating lots, but they were well in the game. And look, I don't want to make excuses for Spurs, but it was a really, really, it's as poor as a football pitch as I've seen. It was really, really bad.
Have you not seen the
It was actually a 3G football pitch, so I mean, it's not even 4G. There's 5G pitches now, so I mean, it's so old. You could see the way the ball was. They were talking about it in the studio at halftime. The ball was stopping, and then it was really, really poor. But the only good thing for Spurs is they did get through, and they didn't get any injuries.
Yeah, the best part about that game for me was when your man did like a roulette around.
Oh, he'll be eating off that forever.
It was like your man who did the pie years ago for something. He'll be getting asked to do that now every time he goes out.
So, and if they were to bring back FA Cup replays, what is to be sacrificed? Because, the teams in Europe would have to play, Spurs would have had to play that replay on a Tuesday night and then play in Europe on the Thursday, for example. I'm not sure how it would work for Liverpool in the Champions League, because if they're playing on a Wednesday, where do they play the game on a Monday night and then go and play that on a Wednesday? How do you see this ever? I mean, I don't think it'll come back, because unless they rejig the European schedule, but under this new format, there's just too many games.
I can't see it unless they scrap the League Cup, but I can't see that happening either.
You know why I don't think that'll happen? Because if you look at the League Cup over the last number of years, it's usually one of the big hitters won it, and it's usually a big hitter final. We've had Chelsea, Liverpool, we've had Man United, Newcastle, we've had Man City, Arsenal a few times. We've had Man City, Spurs. So there seems that a lot of the time the big guns are on there at the end, and I think it's a lot easier to win than the FA Cup, because of how early in the season it is. Whereas the FA Cup runs on the kind of times when you're playing semi-finals, quarter-finals of Champions League. You might be going for a title, whereas this is wrapped up usually by February. This year it'll be March. So before the running even starts, you can have a trophy in the bag. So I know it gets a lot of flack, League Cup, but you look at the four teams that were in the semi-finals this week. They all went with their strongest available team.
Yeah, obviously for me I'm not being big-headed, but for me as a Liverpool man, like the League Cup is the least of my priorities in a season. Like I would go FA Cup, Premier League, Champions League. Champions League's the main one for me. Like if we're on that, I want to win the league, but there's something about the Champions League I love. But once we get into the quarters of the semi-finals of the League Cup, I'm going right. Let's go for it.
Because you can be sure Liverpool's going to play their full strength team in the second leg against Spurs. They're not going to rotate.
Unless we get any injuries, hopefully. But no, it is interesting.
Well,
but
even if they got 4 injuries or 5 injuries, I still think they play the strongest 11 available. I don't think they would rotate.
I can't see any reason why we wouldn't play our first.
They're 90 minutes from Wembley. They're not. I mean, so this is it. It's easy for teams to sit there and go, "Oh, it's only the League Cup," but when you're on there, you only want. I mean, I was at that game the other night, and the place was buzzing after the match. Everyone was jumping around. Spurs was on their way to Wembley, and of course, somebody reminded me there was a second leg. But that's the atmosphere that a League One doesn't do that for you unless you're in the title race and towards the end of the season. Spurs had to beat Newcastle the game before. There wouldn't have been the same reaction as beating Liverpool in the cup. They're 90 minutes from Wembley. They only have to draw a game now, and they're in Wembley, and potentially could be playing a team like Newcastle, who are a good team. They're not one of the traditional backcutters, and there's an opportunity there for if it is a Spurs Newcastle final, that is going to be a big opportunity and the best opportunity for those two teams to end their trophy droughts.
100%. But I did watch some of the Spurs celebrations after, and I was going, do they know that they have to go to Anfield? I was like,
we're confident. We'll be grand.
I hope you're wrong, but no, it'll be an interesting second leg. It's weird that they're a month apart though, because normally it's like a week after.
Hey, tell you what, favourite Spurs that being 4 weeks apart because I'm hearing Romero and Van de Ven will be back for that, and that'll make a big difference. You think the Spurs is back forward?
Well, knowing them, Van de Ven will probably pull a hamstring, like walking his dog.
I'll be doing very, very careful this time. Have to say that the goalkeeper's impressed me. The one that's come on, he looked quite good.
He's very good with his feet. I don't even what's his name, Skalinski or whatever.
Yeah, Kansky.
Yeah. So is he your second choice, third choice now? Your second?
Well, he keeps playing like that. Vicario's going to have a battle in his hands. But and let's talk about Brentford because they were the big. Well, I know Arsenal fell out, but playing at Man United, Brentford were the team to provide the giant killing. Plymouth, bottom of the Championship, beating Brentford, where Brentford are very strong at home normally. But they made a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Can you get your head around this? Because Brentford are comfortable in the league. They're not going to make Europe. Every round of the FA Cup's now been changed to a Saturday game, so you're not going to have a fixture clash. And the fourth round comes around here, Brentford's going to have a weekend off. They're not going to have another game. So why? If you're going to rotate, maybe rotate in the next Premier League game because is Brentford are going to go down?
Well, as you predicted them too at the start of the season.
Well, I got it wrong, but
I said Wolves, and that doesn't look like it's happening anymore. But no, I find this very strange because, as you say, Brentford, they're not going to go down. They're not going to challenge for Europe. So all their games are, not to be disrespectful, but all their games, unless they're involved in one of the big ones, are meaningless. Really, because
and they could have got a home tie against Liverpool. They would have loved that.
And you never know. So for these like mid-table Premier League teams, I don't understand why they disrespect the cup because you never know. Like as they always say, it's the luck of the draw, and I know Plymouth
had a massive. They would have had Brentford away, and that's a much tougher game. Now they've got Plymouth. Liverpool were the benefiters of that shock.
We have Brentford away next Saturday, so we're not too far away from it. But so it's a strange one because like Brentford at home to Liverpool, like we don't have a good record there. Our first one there was last season. Mine when we beat them 4-1. I think that was our first one since they came up. So it's a strange one from Thomas.
Well, their home form's kind of deserted, and that's three losses in a row at home now. Forest, Arsenal, and Plymouth. So good time to go, maybe. And let's look at the fourth round draw before we focus back on the Premier League. I think the tie of the round is probably Villa Spurs or Brighton. I would say Villa Spurs is probably the tie of the round. Brighton Chelsea is also another big clash. Man United against Leicester is probably big because Van Nistelrooy is going back to Old Trafford. And it's like United have actually played Leicester. It'll be the third time at home this season because they played them in the League Cup at home as well. Van Nistelrooy was actually managing Man United at the time. And then Plymouth taking on Liverpool is probably the big one in terms of the the shock from Plymouth going to play Liverpool now. I think Leighton Orient or Derby will play Man City at home, and the result that's getting played tomorrow night was postponed at the weekend.
I'm raging now. Yeah, I'm raging now. Renee's not Plymouth manager anymore. I would have loved to go and beat them.
I tell you what, Owen, this draw is shaping up to be it's going to be a difficult competition to win, because you looked at the third round, and all in that Arsenal Man United game, all the big hitters were actually playing very weak opposition. It was all League Two and League One and Spurs Kiss Conference. Well, then you look at this now, you expect Liverpool to coast through that. You expect Man United to go through. And you expect Man City to go through. You're going to have, yes, Villa or Spurs is a big one, but at least one of them's going through, and at least one of Brighton or Chelsea's going through. So Newcastle as well, I think, are playing Birmingham. You'd expect them to win that. So all of a sudden, unless there's some big draws in the next round, you could have a very, very one-sided draw, and it won't be easy to win. And very much like the League Cup, it was hard draws. They go and win it. How do you feel about the draw? Obviously, Plymouth's a good draw for you, but are you looking at this and thinking it's going to be a tough competition to win now with the way the draws worked out?
100%, because as you say, one of Villa and Spurs are still going to be there. One of Chelsea and Brighton are still going to be there. You would expect United they steamroll Leicester at home, and then the other ones, Newcastle, you say playing Birmingham.
Yeah, or Man City are playing Derby or Leighton Orient, so we expect them to win that.
You would expect Man City to win that. So as you say, bar a shock in the Plymouth Liverpool game, you would expect the next round is going to be equally as tough for teams.
Spurs have had some rotten looking draws this year. I know they get Tamworth in the last round, but look, I think that was difficult because of the conditions they were in. But they played in the League Cup. They've played Man United, Man City, Liverpool, and would have to play Arsenal or Newcastle in the final. And they've already drew Villa away here now, so they've had some really difficult draws.
To be fair, you were very lucky to beat Coventry in the League Cup, if I remember.
We were. Maybe they want the hard games. Maybe these cups you want to play the harder teams, but. Again, I think that Villa Spurs game will be a great game because I think both teams will go strong.
And Villa just signed Malin from Borussia Dortmund today.
Yeah, 25 million. Who do you think, is it Ruska being dumped out there?
You would have to say either Villa or Spurs or Brighton or Chelsea.
Who do you think's favourites for that tie? Villa and Spurs?
I'd say it's 50-50 down the middle, I
think it favours Villa that we're playing Liverpool. But we've had a good record against Villa recently. Yeah. We've actually hammered them the last 2 times we've played them.
I would expect Chelsea to beat Brighton because Brighton's form sort of fell off a cliff a wee bit. I would expect, as I said, United to easily beat Leicester and Villa Spurs.
It would be a big shock if Liverpool, United, and Man City didn't go through.
And you would expect City to go through. You'd expect Liverpool to go. Villa Spurs, I generally don't know how to call that one, but because Spurs are playing us before, I'm gonna just go
give Villa the initiative.
And again, Villa's gonna be one of those teams. They're probably not gonna get into the Champions League again next season. So I know they could get Europe anyway, but this could be a big opportunity for them too because they haven't won a trophy anyway.
Yeah, and Emery loves to win trophies, doesn't he? Owen, second season. It's took a while to get going, but it's really kicked off over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Of course, there was some big movements at Southampton, Man United, and then over the weekend there's been movement. It was Leicester as well. There's been movement at Everton and West Ham. Of course, Graham Potter has replaced Lopetegui at West Ham, and David Moyes' romantic return to Everton. They hopefully keep him in the league and go into the new stadium. Well, let's start with Potter. Because I actually think this is a great appointment for West Ham.
Potter's an Gary O'Neill for me because he was.
I watched their game the other night against Villa, and I have to say, for 45 minutes they were outstanding. Then they lost players to injury, and they kind of fell apart a wee bit. But that first 45, anything to go by, they looked a lot more. They looked much more of a better team than they did under Lopetegui.
Well, it wouldn't be hard because they were a dreadful watch under him. If any other English team employs him again, I don't. He's not a personable man, and he's not for me. He doesn't suit the English game. But as much as I think Potter's slightly overrated, I think it is a good fit for him at West Ham. I think the Chelsea job was too big for him, so I think this is his level, like a big club, so to speak, that want to go higher, but they'll never challenge for like the Premier League or anything.
And Moyes back at Everton. I think this came out of nowhere, really.
Yeah.
We heard that Dice was under a bit of pressure, and then all of a
I
sudden he
said,
was sacked, and then
I
bang.
said to you, I said to you months ago, as soon as these owners came in, he was gone.
Hmm. What's your thoughts on that? Moyes going back there? Was it the right appointment?
I expect as soon as Dice was sacked, like he was the one that I knew that was going to come in. I know there was talk about
Paul Merson says you should never go back. Well, I mean
actually.
that is the risk
Yeah,
that Moyes is
there's
taking here, because
there's him.
if Moyes goes back there and you get relegated, no one's going to remember all them good years Moyes did at Everton. They're going to
Suppose
remember him relegating them.
Paul Merson should take his own advice. He should have never went back to the casino wheeler, but he did. But I can't stand that man. But no, it will undo some of the hard work, but I can't see them getting relegated under Moyes. I think the players will give everything for him, and you could argue they were doing it for Dice, but I think the problem with Dice is the fans were just done with him.
Right, so if anyone doesn't know Owen's thoughts on managers, basically what happens is every Saturday or every Sunday, a team that's on a bad run loses an hour game, and within seconds, the pressure comes right. Oh, such and such is under pressure. Such and such needs sacked. So we'll have this wee sort of debate now for anyone. Obviously, anyone watching, feel free to weigh in on your own opinion. But the question we're going to ask is, why do clubs changing a manager think suddenly it'll make their problems go away? So why do clubs think changing a manager will suddenly make their problems go away? Perfect. I worded that correctly.
I don't think clubs think. I don't think they think that'll make a problem go away necessarily straight away, because it was Sir Potter lost his first game, so I don't think that's it. I just think the environment, and they can tell by the fans. Like you seen it at Everton, West Ham, and both of them, and even Southampton. They were sick and tired of Russell Martin at Southampton. That one I do agree was a bit harsh. But
do you think the Southampton fans are feeling any better? They got beat 5 last week by Brentford.
But the Southampton fans must know they were going down regardless. But
so what's the point of changing the manager?
I get that point, but then if the fans are turning on a manager and the club's just toxic from top to bottom, there is going to be a change.
I'll be honest with you, I think it's the wrong move from Southampton. Do you know why? Because I can't see that boy sticking around if they're in a championship, and then they've lost Russell Merton. He'll probably go somewhere else and get somebody else promoted.
Probably. No, your man that they have, I don't even know his name. The one they have now, it looks like something out of Harry Potter or something.
Ivan Juric, he's from Croatia.
He's scary looking that boy. But
look, they bring balance on it. Edwards stayed on at Luton after they got relegated, and he's been sacked now, and they're really struggling. But look, it doesn't always work out. But I think Russell Martin was a mistake.
I think with the West Ham one, we'll speak about, like, United should have sacked Ten Hag in the summer. I think that was a mistake to keep him.
I think it was a mistake to keep him on. 100% agree with that. You could tell it was never going to work.
Yeah, when they signed him on in the summer at East Ham, I said he'd be gone before Christmas, and it proven to be right. The Everton one, you could argue that Dice would keep them up, and I do think he would, but I just knew when the new owners coming in, that's what made it. When the new owners
apparently the players were very surprised at the decision, and that they had full support of Dice. So this wasn't a case of the players not backing the manager. So that's a very strange one.
I just think it's the case of new owners wanting their own man, and you knew.
Mr. Moyes is very similar in style to Dice.
I know, but I think.
He's a bit more of a pedigree, but he plays a similar brand of football.
I think with Moyes, it was just to get the feel good factor back at Everton. I think that's what it is, because the fans will get behind them. But
if Villa go and turn them over and Spurs beat them at the weekend, 2 home games to start, Moyes has Villa and Spurs. If he loses them 2 games, there'll be nobody singing and dancing in that stadium.
It's a tricky one, I do agree, but I think I just think with clubs, sometimes they just think making a change is better, just to steady the ship a bit, or they think it'll steady the ship a bit.
Yeah, for example, right, Van Nistelrooy coming at Leicester, great start, 4 points in his first 2 games, and hasn't won a game since, lost 5 in a row, and obviously they won the cup there at the weekend, they beat QPR, but in the league, I think they've lost 5 straight games, and they're leaking goals. They're actually looking worse now than they were under Cooper.
Yeah.
So again, I look at Steve Cooper, and I know the fans didn't really have a connection with him because of the Forest thing. But Steve Cooper, I think you've got more chance to stand up than Van Nistelrooy. Van Nistelrooy's got no experience in the Premier League and no experience of a relegation ball.
I did think I agree with you there. I did think it was weird that they were appointed Van Nistelrooy. I thought they would have went for a Moyes or someone. It'll be interesting now that Dice is available. If it really goes, they pop way Van Nistelrooy, will they sack him and bring Dice to Leicester?
Well, and then the other one was Wolves. Now, I was big on the fact that Gary Neal should have been given more time, and I'll give you, and this is why. He walked in there a couple of days before the season started, had a great season with him last year, and this year, yes, it's went off, but he's had to sell more players. He's had to sell his 2 or 3 best players, and then they've been on the wrong end of so many bad calls, so many decisions have gone against them, even last year, but especially this year. And a lot of the games they were losing, I know they had a few hidings, but there was games in there where the decision cost them, and I never thought they were too far away from getting results back. Then your man comes on, and all of a sudden they get a few results. But then more recently, they got runs there the last time in the Premier League. Somebody hammered them.
I think it was. I can't remember who they played last. Because they drew 2 for Spurs, I know that, but I don't.
Somebody
beat
them. I think it was at home too.
Was it Crystal Palace? Oh,
no.
I'll look because it's going to annoy me. But as I do see what you mean, but you could flip it then. Look at Areola, Bournemouth. He came in and they replaced O'Neill and they're flying.
And look, he was under big pressure because remember he only hadn't won a game for about 12 or 13 games, and he was under pressure, and they give him time to sort it out.
True, I was not.
Why are these chairmen and these club owners reluctant to give managers a bit of time to get things to work? Because you look at Ten Hag and obviously it was 2 seasons, and I'll bring this question in. I think after 2 full seasons, we'd seen enough about Ten Hag to make a fair judgment call that it probably wasn't going to work.
It was not in the Forest, by the way.
Forest beat them. Forest beat them. Hammered them 3-0.
3-0. So do you think say for argument's sake, if Spurs don't win a trophy this season, you think Ange should be sacked in the summer?
Well, if he finishes in the bottom half of the table, that's probably unacceptable.
That's what I mean, but it's a strange one because
I mean, if we get all these players back and we don't have any improvement, that would be a big worry. But if we did get all these players back and they would done a good run of form and they finished somewhere, if they managed this week on the top 6, I'd be saying, well, let's give them another year because it's unlikely they'll get that run of form, them run injuries again. But
you never know though. We have style
play, and as well, when you can clearly see the players is playing for France. There's no way to beat Liverpool if they weren't playing for them.
There's something they are playing, but there's something we have in Madison. I can't put my finger on it, but I don't think they get on. I don't know what.
We'll see what happens in the summer. And funny you mentioned Ange here because he is the next favourite to be sacked in the Premier League. To be honest, I think everyone that could have been sacked now he's gone before him, so he's going to be the favourite unless we get on a run of form.
What's his odds to get sacked?
I'm not sure. I just seen it there on Facebook today. Just his next manager to be sacked. He was a favourite, but I think that's partly due as well. Well, I think there's only Crystal Palace and Ipswich below Spurs that haven't sacked their manager.
And Kieran McKenna's not going to get sacked, and Glasgow, you would think, is not going to.
And then Spurs is 12th, so the top 11 teams haven't sacked their manager yet. So, and that's unlikely, because of where they are in the table. So, Ange is probably going to be the favourite for a while.
I can't see Slot getting sacked for some anyway. But
that's a fair question, right? Spurs have sacked managers continuously for the last God knows how many years, and it's never ever proven to change. So, should they not give this man more time? Regardless of what happens this week in the league, they get it right. And look, who knows? It could be one of them seasons where Spurs do have a really poor league season. But I tell you what, if they won the CARABAO Cup, no one's going to give not one Spurs fan's going to care too much about it.
I know, but then you could flip that. If you don't win the CARABAO Cup and have a poor league season, then what do you do?
Of course. I don't mean to say that. We've seen it with Ten Hag. He won a couple of trophies, and But I do think with Spurs it's a bit different because we've seen what Spurs are capable of.
The difference with Ten Hag is you can see Ange's style of play. Well, people agree with
the players that playing for him.
You can see that, but whether people agree with it or not is a different story. I think they should give him to the end of the season for definite to see what happens. But if Spurs are sitting where he's now 11th, 12th.
12th.
If he's sitting 12th and he's don't want anything, then there has to be a change made. But I could say the same with Arteta too. Like if Slot goes and wins the league this year after spending 12 million on a player who doesn't play on that. Well, I was happy he got his first goal at the weekend. Kesa, but If Slot wins the league this year, do you not think that puts a lot more pressure on Arteta as well?
100%. 100%. I mean, if Forest finished in the top four, that's even more pressure.
I'm actually nervous about that game on Tuesday. Like,
Well, look,
I was,
let's get into the midweek games because, of course, the Premier League returns tomorrow night. 10 fixtures spread over the 3 nights: Tuesday, Thursday, 4 on Tuesday, 4 on Wednesday, and 2 on Thursday. And of course, all 10 games are live on TNT Sports, so you'll be able to pick and choose
you'll
whatever
be at
fixture.
Lanzarote watching the North London derby.
Of course, yeah. My flight's at 8 in the morning, so I'm going to Lanzarote. So I'm going to enjoy the football this week in Lanzarote with a good ice cold pint. I'm going to enjoy the mid-season break.
Why not?
Hopefully, Spurs 2 away games, Arsenal and Everton. Not the easiest, but I'm going on there with a bit of confidence, to be honest.
If he's lose on Wednesday night, I'll not be slagging you.
I'm actually more worried about Everton. I really fancy if they won on Wednesday. I just have a feeling, but
use your home, aren't you?
Away.
Ooh.
I think it suits us at the moment. Being away, there's no less pressure on the ground, and
true.
Can maybe relax a wee bit more, and maybe be a little bit more defensive and cautious. And
I know he's bit us last week, but your home form hasn't been great other than that.
Well, that was our first one for 5 or 6 at home, like.
Doesn't matter. And
I was actually looking if you go back to the Tamworth game, or Tamworth now starts the run. If you go to Tamworth, the next 11 games, including Tamworth, 9 away games Spurs have. Would you believe that? On all competitions, 9 away games.
That's mad. Who's your next European game? Is it like
Hoffenheim away?
I don't know how they're doing in the Bundesliga, but tricky enough maybe.
And even that week we play in the FA Cup. We've got Brentford away in the league on the Saturday. We've got Liverpool away in the Thursday in the Cup, and then we're going to have Villa away. So that's a really tough week. But look, at down the line, let's start by looking ahead to the feature game. The highlight game this week is definitely I know Forest Liverpool will be a lot of eyes on it, but the North London Derby is one of the biggest games in the Premier League, and of course,
do you just want predictions?
What's at stake? What's that?
Do you just want me to do predictions?
No, we're going to discuss this game in a bit more detail, and then we'll go through the rest of them as well and sort of speak about them. But we'll do this game in a bit more detail with being the main game. Owen, who's it a bigger game for? Because of course Spurs come on probably needing a 1 in the league. They, I don't think they're in danger of relegation, but they really need to start climbing that table. But of course Arsenal really are, and especially depending on what happens on tomorrow night. If Liverpool were to go and win at Forest, the pressure would really be on Arsenal to go and win. They could really be doing with Liverpool dropping points tomorrow night, and that obviously the North London Derby will have pressure anyway, especially them being at home. But it would ease if they were to go if Liverpool were to lose or draw, if Arsenal were to go and draw, then of course it doesn't feel as bad. But they are playing catch up, so they do need to start winning games. But I kind of feel Arsenal will have a lot more pressure on them going this game than Spurs, because I think Spurs have that. But it's not a banker, but they do have that League Cup semi-final they fall back on.
Yeah. Whereas Arsenal in the League Cup semi-final, you would highly doubt that they'll turn around a two goal deficit at St James's Park. But no, for me, it is a bigger game for Arsenal because one, they're at home, so they're expected they come out and dominate the ball and win the game probably because their home fans are expecting nothing less. And as you say, if Liverpool go, just say we're sitting here tomorrow night and Liverpool are playing Forest and we've won, they're going into that game 9 points behind us. So they need to get the result regardless of what happens tomorrow. I think they need to get the result, because if they lose against Spurs, as I said earlier, and we beat Forest, then you would have to say the league's not done mathematically. Obviously, there's a lot of football to be played, but you would nearly think Liverpool will have one hand on it.
I think it's really bad in their favour this week, as they play after Liverpool both times this week. So Liverpool play at 3 o'clock on Saturday. They don't play at 5:30. So if Liverpool keep winning, they have to just win. They stay at the points tally they were at. So
and
it's in Liverpool's hands this week. They do some damage there, Arsenal.
I know what it's like too, because when we were in the title races with Man City, and if they played before us and they won, it's like they keep winning. So that the players probably think, right, they're not going to drop. If we keep winning, there's nothing they can do. So it's the same way when Man City were at their pump. It was when they kept winning. It just demoralizes you as a family.
And to be fair, it is a big game for Spurs too, because I think if Spurs go here and win, all the talk about Ange stops for a while. Because I think if you beat Liverpool and went to Arsenal and won North London Derby, I don't know if he'll still be the favourite to be sacked, but his odds will definitely will not be as short as they are now anyway.
If he goes and beats Arsenal, then he's bought himself at least to the end of the season for sure.
And both these teams are going to be playing under strength teams. I mean, as it says, a few weeks ago, I was worried about this fixture. I was thinking if we don't beat Wolves and don't beat Newcastle, I couldn't see us beating Liverpool. Tamworth was a bit irrelevant because I thought even if we won that, then you aren't going to get any credit for beating Tamworth. So I thought Arsenal away and Everton away just could be really difficult. Of course, they beat Liverpool, and they're on the verge. They've got an advantage now in the second leg. But Arsenal in the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks have had all these significant injuries now, and maybe not as many as Spurs, but still the key players. And you look at Spurs have had all their injuries kind of in defence and goalkeeper, but all their injuries have kind of come in the forward area. So do you think it's been evened up quite a lot now that this is a very top? It's hard to call this game.
I think with Arsenal's injuries, and obviously Spurs have injuries as well, but it seems to be North London's coming down with an injury bug at the minute on both sides.
Well, that's it. Both teams have had injuries, but both teams were hit with that bug too over Christmas.
Yeah, I think Calafiori, was it Odegaard was sick as well. Spurs had a few out sick. So it's I think it'll be a strange game, I think, tomorrow. But if you're asking me for a prediction.
Wednesday, sorry. No, Wednesday. I'll get your prediction. I'll get your prediction at the end.
No bar, but I would say Spurs are slight favourites. I'll say that.
You think so?
Just because Arsenal's form, I know Spurs' form isn't great.
You think of the negativity around Arsenal, maybe?
I actually
think, to be fair, if Spurs can get through the first 15 minutes without conceding, or even go 1-0 up, I think that Arsenal's going to be playing against the crowd too, because I think they're going to really turn on them.
That's what I mean. If Arsenal start badly, or say someone gets sent off Arsenal ways, then the crowd will just turn if Arsenal aren't at their best. So I think it's a big game for both sides, but for very different reasons.
Spurs have only won once at the Emirates in the league. They did beat them in a CARABAO Cup quarter-final a few years ago. That's the most recent one. But their most recent league one came in 2010 when they were actually 2-0 down at half-time and come back, they won 3-2. But I mean, I know they've got injuries of their own, but looking at Arsenal, the form they're in, the negativity, the injuries they have up front, they're struggling to score goals. They're even when they get decent chances, they can't seem to put them away. Yeah. Spurs are going to get a better opportunity, surely, to go and win at the Emirates.
No, this is their best opportunity, probably. Maybe not ever again, because you don't know what will happen in the future, but in recent history anyway, I don't think Spurs will have a better opportunity to go and win here.
Lee Judges is quite good on the FTV. He's quite fair. He says that Ange should be sacked if he comes here and tries to open up. He should look at what our managers have done and park a bus and hit them on the counter-attack. I mean, how do you feel about that? Because Alf says they've been a bit more cautious in recent games, and I think Ange says, it's nothing to do with me. You're not going to dominate Liverpool for 90 minutes. But I do think that was tongue-in-cheek. I do think they have been a lot tighter at the back, and they haven't been committing as many men forward. The fullbacks haven't been bombing on as much, and when they've lost the ball, they've kind of had 4 back instead of 2 back. So they've been able to deal with them counter-attacks a wee bit better. But summer game, Arsenal like to get on the ball and play too. So it will allow that kind of Spurs to get back behind the ball and, then they pick their moments to go forward. But, I mean, can you see Ange going as reckless as he did against Liverpool a few weeks ago?
No.
Do you think that was a big turning point? Do you think that was a lesson that they learned? That, although I want to play that way, if I keep doing that, I'm not going to be here in a few weeks' time.
Probably, because if he plays like that with his best team, then fair enough. But when you, it's like if you give a workman bad tools, he's not going to be able to do his job right. Like so, so it's the same situation. But I don't think he'll open up now, because even though Arsenal don't score many goals, they can still create opportunities. And
if Spurs defend their set pieces, they have every chance, because I think they're going to get so many. I looked at United. They get so many opportunities to counter-attack, and Spurs have more quality in the final third than United do.
Yeah, I think Solanke's really turning into a good signing.
Very good signing. He really impressed me. Especially at the Liverpool game, I thought he was excellent.
He was very good. But no, it's going to be a very interesting game. But I do agree that Spurs.
Do you know what I would say? He's in Solanke's favour too. I've never really had this feeling with him before. But see when he was running through against Liverpool, I know it was offside. I never expect him. They must. We all says goal. He's going to score this.
So
And
did
I think
I.
that's a sign of a really good striker when you're on them moments and you think, but when Kane was at Spurs and Haaland's for Man City, Ken always, it was a big shock if they missed. And I think Ali McCoy's been a great point. I saw exactly. I think Ali McCoy's been a great point. Just when Werner was through, you can't expect them they must. And I think Solanke has got that kind of tiger about him. So
it's like
Spurs get chances, they'll be a lot more ruthless than Arsenal will.
Oh, they definitely will, especially with the form he's in. It's like Nunez Wales when he runs through, you're like, right, what's going to happen?
But more often than not, he misses. A bit like Werner. So it's one of those ones.
I've seen a few Spurs fans saying yesterday that Werner wouldn't even get on the time warp team.
Somebody says yesterday, they were running down past that boy that works in Zara, and he says if he didn't know any better, he'd think that the wee boy was a professional and Werner was the boy working in Zara. Like,
was that your wee man that the black fella?
Kenny Manny's name.
They look decent on the ball now, have to say.
I think some of them Tamworth players will be getting a few phone calls, some that are okay.
They'll be giving up their new job.
Owen, I was listening to this Arsenal blog. I was reading this Arsenal blog, and this boy's quite good, but can be a quite one-sided at times, but he's kind of fair as well. And he says that he couldn't believe that Arteta went full strength against Man United because he done it against Newcastle. And then he has Spurs coming up in the North London Derby this Wednesday, and of course Villa on Saturday. So almost having to play strongest 11 4 games in a row without Hidden. And of course he's lost more players to injury now as well. They're looking a wee bit threadbare. So you look at these 2 games, I know they're both at home, but they've just lost 2 games at home. The United and Newcastle, they've got Spurs on Wednesday night, and of course Villa at home on Saturday. And Villa were the team that delivered a knockout blow last year to them in the league. That was the one game they lost in the second half of the season. I mean, it's 2 massive games, and you even the most strongest of Arsenal fans probably thinking 6 points is going to be pretty tough, considering the situation that we're in, and it's probably what they need to stay in this race.
If they lose, I'm just going to. If Liverpool end up, say we win our 2 games this week and they lose theirs, then the game in hand against Everton sort of becomes irrelevant, doesn't it? Because you would think, I don't know.
But I think if he offered Liverpool now to come out of this week level, they'd be happy enough to take it because it's now 2 games gone. They still have that game in hand to play, and all of a sudden you start. I know it's still a long way to go. You start running out of games. Do
you think?
If the gap stays at 9 points for another 4 or 5 weeks, then it's only suiting Liverpool. It's not suiting Arsenal. All right, they're not getting any further away. But they're not getting any closer.
Do you think Man City can come back and it?
Not from what I've seen. I think a lot of them results have flattered them. The 4-1 against West Ham was the 4-1. Yeah. When was the other game they won there? Oh, the Salford games are relevant, but they won an hour game. Leicester 2-0 was a flattering scoreline. So I think Brentford need to respond. So I think that'll be an interesting game tomorrow night to see how that goes.
Yeah, but no, they could be out of it by Saturday. So fingers crossed they are.
Look, when Man City after Christmas and the New Year start winning games, you kind of know you'd be like, these boys are going to click. Even though they've won these games, I've seen enough on them. They suggest that it's not going to last.
Yeah, and I know they're signing your man Marmouche from Frankfurt, but of
course he'll give him firepower, but I think it's goal. It's at the back. They're letting on too many. They're giving away too many chances.
They've signed a centre back for 50 million from Lens, but he's only 19.
I think Manfred's a big issue.
I don't even think they've been linked with a centre defensive midfielder so far.
No, because they're probably thinking, well, Rodri's going to be back, so what's the point?
Coming back from an ACL injury, it's risky.
I'll be honest with you. I think Pep's wrote the season off, to be honest. No. I don't think he even believes they can win it. I think they just have to try and get through it and rebuild, but of course there's going to be a lot of talk around what's going to happen with the charges, but look, that's for another day. Final thoughts on before we get to predictions?
I was going to say that hopefully I'm sitting in May with red ribbons with me. But no.
Final thoughts on Arsenal and Arteta, because if they're out of the cup, assuming they don't get through against Newcastle, how do they rescue this season? Because it could be out of the Premier League risks if the next 2 games don't go well. It's looking like it's going to be very hard to turn around that Newcastle game. They're out of the FA Cup. It would all mean that all Ducks are going to the Champions League and finishing in the top 4. Cementing their top 4 spot and trying to win the Champions League. And to be honest, I think even just finishing in the top 4, Arsenal fans won't be satisfied. So,
I can't.
It's going to be a big ask as well. They won the Champions League. I'm not sure they've got the experience or the I'm not sure they're good enough for the players they have at the moment. Without Saka,
Um,
Saka's not going to be back. We're here in late April.
and then he's back late April, but then it's getting up the match fitness in is another problem. But no, if they don't go through in the cup, and then if the Premier League goes pear shaped, I agree with you. I can't see them doing much in the Champions League, especially if they come up against, I don't know, a Barcelona or Real Madrid, like or even
Look,
even
the thing with Arteta, there's no doubt he's done a brilliant job there.
yeah,
But he has been there quite a long. We says about managers not getting enough time. He's been there quite a long time.
5 years, yeah.
I think Arsenal, the board of Arsenal, would be reluctant to sack him because he's delivering Champions League football, and they were out of the Champions League for a while, and obviously that increases their revenue. But I think the pressure from the fans would be the one what they're going to have to try and withstand. But it wouldn't surprise me if he got one more. He was told, "Look, you got one more season." They go and do about it, and look, that could go either way.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see come the end of the season if the players are still believing that he's the man, because I think that'll be the proof in the pudding from the results. If they're in a situation come April where they're scripting to get into the top four, I think that would be a big worry for Arteta, that maybe they would look at it and go, well, maybe the players need a different voice.
The fact that they haven't bought a top quality number 9 astounds me.
Yeah.
No, I know.
Look, it's not going to come cheap, because I was seeing that they've got 160 million before they can be punished for FFP, but it would probably take 140, 150 million not just to sign Isak. So he seems to be the one they want, but spend all that on one player, like, it's not easy.
If Newcastle get into the Champions League this season, would they want to go?
What's that? And let's look at the games and we'll give our predictions. Of course, it all kicks off tomorrow night. 3 games at 7:30 before Liverpool take on the Forest at the City Ground at 8:00. So Brentford, Man City, 7:30. Man City have had problems against Brentford in the past, so not easy. And as it says, Brentford are on a bit of a bad run, but they are one of these teams that can up their game for one of the big boys. So
yeah,
difficult to call. When I see these 10 games, I think about 8 of them are really hard to call.
Yeah,
it's a really, really tricky match round. So
it is.
I can see a lot of draws, to be honest, in a lot of these games. But how do you see this one go?
I'm going to say 2-1 Man City.
I'm going to go 1-1. Chelsea taking on Bournemouth at 7:30. Also, I think this is another tricky game because Chelsea had a little bit of a stumble. I know they won well in the FA Cup, but against really poor opposition. Bournemouth are flying at the minute, absolutely flying, and they've been pretty good against the better teams as well. So not easy for Chelsea this game either.
No, it's not, and it's going to be. I'm going to go 2-2.
I agree, 2-2 draw.
2-2.
Graham Potter's first Premier League game is against Fulham in a London derby. Fulham are very hit and miss.
Yep.
Seem to do well against teams where there's less pressure on them. It's against the smaller teams they tend to struggle with. Yeah. West Ham badly need a win as well. Always difficult to call when it's a new manager coming on. You just don't know how the players. But West Ham have a lot of injuries. I think that's going against Potter. Falkirk getting injured. Antonio's obviously had a car accident. They've no striker. Bowen's out injured. So I think scoring goals could be an issue for West Ham.
Yeah, I'm going to go 1-0 Fulham.
I'm going to go 2-1 Fulham.
2-1 Fulham.
Of course, Tuesday's headline game at 8:00 is Nottingham Forest against Liverpool. It is first versus third, I believe, in the league. Yeah, Forest just behind Arsenal on goal difference. Forest, the only team in the Premier League, they beat Liverpool this year in the reverse fixture. They won by a goal to nil. And Forest do love a clean sheet. And I think they've had 9 clean sheets they've had, and they've had a lot of 1-0 wins as well. So it won't be easy for Liverpool. If you remember this game last year as well, they took them to the 100th minute to score the winner. And of course, funny enough, they got it. But it just shows you how difficult they are to play against.
Nunes won't be playing this week because he's suspended. Thank God. It's funny how much I've turned on him, isn't it? Because I was one of his biggest fans, but no, he's dumb. Man, you know what? I'm gonna go 2-1 to Liverpool.
I'm really torn. I can see all 3 outcomes. I think whatever happens, it's going to be a 1-goal margin of victory, or a draw. I think it's going to be that tight.
Yeah.
I just think
Yeah,
for
I
us to
agree.
sit back and counter attack, and I actually think at the minute their centre back pairing's the best in the league. Maybe not in quad, but on individual, they're just not conceding goals. I think they're so confident in defending. And Liverpool have been conceding a lot of goals recently. I think it's a really dangerous game for Liverpool.
I agree.
And for that reason, I'm going to tip Forest to beat them 2-1.
Fair enough.
Everton take on Villa on Wednesday night at 7:30. So moving on to Wednesday's games. Difficult start for David Moyes. Villa again, but they're hitting miss Villa, so you wouldn't know. But I think Everton are really up against it at the moment with the injury to Calvert-Lewin. Again, goals is an issue.
Yeah.
What can Moyes do? I mean, they don't concede many goals, so it's all about trying to put the ball in the net. And I just don't know if they've got the quality.
They don't concede many, but they don't score many either.
No, and Villa are very hit and miss, but I do fancy Villa in this game, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 Villa.
I'm going to go the same, 2-0 Villa. Wednesday, Leicester against Crystal Palace. Another tricky game to call. Palace aren't the best travellers, and Leicester have been pretty poor when they're run this story.
I'm just going to go down the middle. I'm going to go 1-1.
1-1.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 0-0.
No.
Newcastle against Wolves. I think this is one of the ones that when I'm saying about the 8 games I wasn't sure, the 2 that I was sure of, Newcastle was one of them. I really fancy Newcastle.
Yep. 3-0 Newcastle.
I'm going to go 2-0 Newcastle. Arsenal against Spurs in the North London derby. Usually goals in these games, but I'm not sure if there'll be as many goals as there are. I know the reverse game was 1-0 actually this year. Gabriel scored a header, but I have a funny feeling it could be not low scoring, but I don't see it being a 3-2 or a 4-3 or a 3-3.
No, I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs.
I'm going to go the same. 2-1 Spurs.
Yeah.
Ipswich against Brighton is your Thursday night. Is the first game on the Thursday night at 7:30. Again, another very difficult game to call. Brighton have been poor recently, but they did fight back for that draw against Arsenal. Ipswich turned a corner, definitely getting better. But like Luton, I think they're picking up the odd result, but it'll be interesting to see if they can get on a run. I still think they're going to be destined to drop, but you never know.
I'm going to go 1-1.
I'm going to go the same as well, 1-1 draw. And the other game I was certain of a victory for one team was United and Southampton. I can't see anything why United won.
No, neither can I, especially with the way they've played in the last 2 games. I'm going to go 3-0 United.
I'm going to go 2-0. Owen, we'll have a quick look at the weekend's games because we're not going to be obviously doing a podcast until I come back from holidays. So we'll just go through these quickly. And you can let me know who you fancy in these games. So Newcastle, Bournemouth on Saturday.
Newcastle.
Brentford, Liverpool.
I'm always going to back my boys. I'm going to say Liverpool.
Leicester, Fulham.
Fulham.
West Ham, Palace.
Draw.
Arsenal, Villa, 5:30 on Saturday.
Draw.
Sunday, Everton, Spurs.
Spurs.
Man United, Brighton.
Man United.
Forest, Southampton.
Forest.
And 4:30, Ipswich against Man City.
Man City.
Monday night, Chelsea against Wolves.
Draw.
So going off what you says there, winners and losers, you think Liverpool, Newcastle. Liverpool, winners will do winners first. You fancy Liverpool and Newcastle and Fulham.
And Spurs, they get wins.
And Spurs, Man City, and Man United, all they have double rounds, 6 points this week. The biggest losers, definitely Arsenal. You've backed them to get 1 point. West Ham, 1 point.
Southampton don't really count.
Southampton, backed them to get beat twice, 0 points. And you've also predicted Everton to get 0 as well. So it could be your biggest winners and losers from this week. But of course, some massive games in their own. Which ones are you looking forward to the most? Obviously Liverpool, but
has to be the North London derby, doesn't it?
North London derby.
It's always, even for obviously you're more invested in it than I am, not being a Spurs fan, but for a neutral, it's always a game I look forward to.
I'm really looking forward to the Forest and Liverpool game in the morning. I think that's going to be a very good one.
I said 2-1.
Tactically, it'll be fascinating to watch that. I don't see it being a goal fest, but I think it'll be quite tactical.
No, I said 2-1 Liverpool, but I do agree with you. It wouldn't shock me if any of the three results happen.
No, I really do. I think a draw for Liverpool morning's a good result.
If we come out of these next two games with 4 points, I'd be pretty happy.
If they draw away Forest tomorrow night and beat Brentford on Saturday, it takes Arsenal to win both their games to make any road.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And we think that's a big ask. We want to help. So I think 4 points now you take it.
Definitely, I'd bite your hand off for that.
Well, Owen, it's been great having you on. Enjoy the football this week. Of course, big week for Liverpool. Big week for a lot of teams. I'll be watching it in the sun.
If I'm allowed to watch football anymore, that is.
I'll be watching it in the sun. I'm sure we'll be in touch in the group chat anyway. And I want to thank everybody that's watched tonight and had a comment. And you can always put your views on here. We'll put them on the screen. Says we'll be back probably some stage next midweek when the Champions League returns. And we'll look back at the previous weekend's results. Where the table could take a turn this week, of course, with a double match round. If you're new around here, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content. We'll see you next week. Owen, have a good week, sir. Thanks very much.
Enjoy your holiday.
Top man.